Awesome. Good morning, STEM Core. Morning, STEM Core students. And I see a few staff members. Thanks so much for being here on another Friday morning. We definitely appreciate you all taking the time. We're super excited for this morning. Obviously, as all of you know, we've been meeting with our various employer partners and opportunities for internships for summer 2022. We're excited this morning because we have our partners from Caltrans LA here on the call with us today. For those of you who are unaware or new to the STEM Core program, we have an existing relationship where we had several STEM Core students participate last summer and had a really excellent experience. And we have a few of those students on the call today who will be able to answer your questions and talk a little bit more about their experiences. But we have a great team from Caltrans today, so I don't want to take up too much more time, just because I know that they have a very thorough presentation prepared for all of you this morning. So as always, we are going to ask that you save your burning questions until the end. We're hoping for about 5 to 10 minutes towards the end of the presentation. You can ask. If any questions come up for you during, you can feel free to put them in the chat and we'll make sure to address that towards the end. Okay, so without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Derek Heiga.
Okay, thank you very much, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to, I guess, Employer Talk with Caltrans District 7, Los Angeles. My name is Derek Higa. I'm the Assistant District Division Chief for the Division of Design at District 7. So since the earlier part of this year, I have been fortunate enough to be collaborating with Cheryl Martinez, the National STEM Program Manager associated with the Growth Sector Program, and together with the strong leadership and support of the District 7 Caltrans executive team, including District Director Tony Tavares, Chief Deputy District Director Gloria Roberts, and Deputy District Director Gerald Cam, we were able to successfully place 5 students associated with the Growth Sector Program with positions in the Division of Design. So today I'm very excited, and like you said, Cheryl, we're able to share what we've done in the past, and looking towards the future, we want to share some of the opportunities that we'll have for next summer. So before we get into our very robust agenda, I would like to introduce our Chief Deputy District Director, Gloria Roberts, who will be kicking us off with some opening remarks. Gloria?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Derek. And I just like to start by thanking Cheryl. I believe that in the last year and a half, we've developed a great partnership to get the STEM growth program here at Caltrans. So really appreciate the fact that we're looking at round 2 with the next set of interns. And I'm just really excited to see that we have a lot of new faces. And thank you for your interest in doing an internship with Caltrans. I myself am not an engineer, but I am in awe and really have deep respect for the engineering profession, because engineering, takes a lot of specialized skills and expertise to really bring ideas into reality. And so the physical infrastructure that we all see every day in the modern world are a result of engineers. So you cannot ask for a better set of accomplished engineers and professionals than the ones that we have here at Caltrans, and especially in District 7. If you choose to do an internship with Caltrans and you're here, you're going to learn so much, because we have such a diverse group of professionals in terms of what it is that we do in engineering. And so we have a fabulous leadership team and staff. And I just really look forward to working and developing this program, and really looking at how this program develops further engineers. And I know that, even through this program, you will also consider Caltrans as a future employer for you. So really looking forward to seeing the growth of this program, and I'll turn things back to Derek. Thank you so much.
Again, thanks so much for those opening remarks, and of course, your strong support and leadership, Gloria. So I will be turning this over to Anthony Ng, who is our Office Chief of Engineering Services. He's also our coordinator for the district's rotation program. So he's very familiar with all the different functional units and opportunities that he's going to be explaining to you today. Anthony?
All right. Hey, thanks, Derek. Hey, so before we jump into everything, I just want to give you guys a quick run through of what we're going to go through today. So on our agenda, we're going to go to, we're going to show you a quick video about Caltrans being the workplace of choice. Then we're going to go over a day in the life of a growth sector intern. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys are wondering, hey, what's going to be like? Are you guys going to be doing, out in the field? Are you going to be in the office? What kind of things you're going to be doing? So in that day in the life of the growth sector intern, we're going to take a visit with the utilities unit, design unit, and also show you something from the landscape architecture unit. Then also we're going to go over some of the opportunities that we have over in Caltrans for you guys to partake in. And just real quick, we do have opportunities in design, maintenance engineering, and also sustainability and innovation. And so rounding it off, we're going to have testimonials from some former growth sector interns. And then last but not least, we're going to open up for some questions. All right. So real quick, let me go jump over to my YouTube.
California, the Golden State, where opportunity abounds. California, a land of snow-capped mountains, rivers running strong and clear, and a place of rugged, beautiful coastlines. If California were a nation, its economy would rank among the world's 10 largest. California is an ethnically diverse and culturally rich homeland for over 37 million people. The common thread woven through the magnificently varied quilt is our transportation system. This system is the lifeline of commerce and community. The California Department of Transportation, also known as Caltrans, oversees this complex interface of highways, bridges, rail systems, and supporting infrastructure that helps maintain the California lifestyle. Caltrans is a leader in the transportation industry and has earned its reputation due to world-class projects. Caltrans is an employer of choice because we don't just make history, we build it. Caltrans is a dynamic organization where excellence is a way of life and opportunities are unlimited. Caltrans engineers are members of a professional organization with a fiercely proud tradition of setting the standard by which other transportation systems are measured. As an engineer, you will discover your own potential and develop your skills and interests through diversified hands-on assignments. You will have the opportunity to achieve your career goals while working and living in some of the most desirable places in the country. Caltrans is searching for engineers and other skilled professionals who want to make a difference. If you have a college degree in engineering or a related science or are nearing graduation, you may be eligible to join the Caltrans team.
I think Caltrans is one of the best places to work at. I plan to graduate in about 2 months, and I plan to work for Caltrans as a civil engineer.
I've been out of school for about 15 months, and now I'm working on a $110 million interchange. And I think it's a great opportunity for a first job right out of school.
As an
All right. So now let's go over a day in the life of a growth sector intern. And so today here we have two of the former supervisors from the last time we had the growth sector interns. We have Ricky Lee and we have Gordon Leung. And also we have some two former interns and also two former growth sector interns, but current interns in Caltrans, Larry Monreal and Luis Orozco. First, let's go over utility engineering, which was one of the units that the growth sector interns participated in. And utility engineering, just to give you guys a quick background, is trying to find all the network of utilities that are hidden underground, under our roadways before we start working on construction. Because if you don't do proper utility engineering, this is what would happen. And here they just hit an electrical line. Okay, there's another one where, yes, definitely could get very dangerous. Then also, there's a lot of, sorry about that. There's a lot of, there's gas lines as well that could be hit.
I think we lost your presentation, Anthony.
Did you? Oh, please. I stopped sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Pretty fierce.
So let me
They're
go back to
fueled
that.
by that natural.
So did you guys see the electrical?
Yeah, I
No,
think you're
okay.
on your third video now. So yeah, the gas line would be next.
Okay. I'll just
Good
do that real
afternoon
quick.
from the
Thanks.
KCAL 9 News studios. I'm Sandra Mitchell, and you're looking at live pictures right now from Sky 9, where there is a fire burning. This is Woodland Hills, and it looks pretty ferocious because a backhoe there, part of a construction crew, has hit a gas line, and you.
Yeah, so if you don't do proper utility engineering, stuff like that would happen. So, so now I want to turn it over to Ricky and Larry to give us some insight on what you guys did during the last growth sector internship.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Anthony. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ricky Lee. I'm one of the seniors in the utility engineering work group. So just to briefly summarize what are the functions we perform in the utility engineering work group. One, we provide the quantity estimate for potholes and relocations during the planning phase and the project report and environmental document phases of the project development process. Potholing, that's one of the terms that you'll learn in utility engineering. It's basically we're physically excavating a hole in the soil or the road surface to expose the utilities so that we can get the X, Y, and Z coordinates surveyed and to be plotted on the project plans. And potholing, we include high priority utilities, which are the utilities, as you've seen in the videos, that if they happen to be hit, it's going to cause human injury or suffering or danger to the public or the workers. Or we also pothole utilities that are in potential conflict with the work so that the project engineer can either figure out a way to design around it, or we might even have to call for the relocation of the utility. Another function the utility engineering work group performs is to ensure that the projects comply with Caltrans utility and encroachment policies, and verifying the project utility plans comply with the locating, which is the potholing, and the depicting requirements, which is the schematic representation of the utility lines on the project utility plans. And we also work with the right-of-way utility coordinator to relocate the utility in conflict. So, I mean, do you think you can go back to the previous slide, please, Anthony?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to pass it on to Larry Monreal, who is currently a student assistant in the utility group, so that he can talk a little bit about what he's been doing. Go ahead, Larry.
Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Monreal, and a little bit about myself is this year actually, in the summer, I was a growth sector intern in design aid department, and I transferred for a student assistant and utility department. And I'm currently right now working with Ricky Lee. And for my utility department, a quick summary of what I do right now is I'm reading and reviewing as-built plans. That includes a database used from Caltrans. That database is useful as it gives you the utility plans within the project scope. Keep in mind, knowing the purpose and need of the project would be useful as you're looking for utility conflicts within the construction of the area project. As you're looking for as-built plans, you got to make sure you're looking corresponding to a different type of utilities. So also an important thing to remember when checking the as-built is the high priorities utilities in the project area, within typically 50 feet of the area. Identifying the type and quantity affected utility is inputted into the data sheet, as you can see on the screen. And those are the potholes listed that are going to be affected within the project scope. One thing I got a tip from my supervisor was you're exposed to different type of plans throughout the project. So, I mean, reading plans is an important tool, and also knowing different type of utilities is beneficial working through the process.
All right, thanks, Larry.
On to the Diggler as well. This is a useful tool for potholing. The Diggler is to identify each utility owner contact with information of the project limit. With the contact information with each contact utility, you're able to receive up-to-date as-built plans corresponding to the project. And from there, you're able to see, compared to the as-built plans you got from the database of Caltrans and the as-built plans are up to date, and you compare them to see which utility plans will affect in the future.
All right, yeah, thanks, Larry. So moving on, we also had some interns that worked in the design unit, and in design, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys probably seen, what we do is we actually, we draw out our plans that look something like this. Then we'll incorporate into some design programs, and in Caltrans we use what we call Civil 3D to actually turn it into a real design. And once you're done with that, you can even do a rendering to see actually what it looks like. So now I want to hand it off to Gordon and Luis to give us a little bit of background on the projects that they worked on during their internship.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gordon Leong. I'm one of the design managers here at the Caltrans District 7. What you are seeing here is an American with Disability Act or ADA curb ramp design. This is actually a capital preventive maintenance project that we have here on Route 1, or better known as the Lincoln Boulevard, PCH, or Sepulveda, depending on which segment it is. The primary project scope for this project is to preserve and extend the service life of the existing pavement by coplaning and overlaying with hard mix asphalt. And also the other major scope, of course, is to upgrade these ADA ramps for compliance with the ADA current ADA design standards and guidelines for pedestrian access, which is also part of what we're doing here for the complete street design. The image here, it's done. It's a 2D design drawing. It's done in MicroStation. That's the CAD or computer-aided drafting software that we use here. Yes, you see there's many callouts and text that is displayed here. Those are mainly design informations, include such as elevations, slopes, dimensions, distance offsets corresponding to the street alignments or floor line alignments. These are important information that we put on our contract plans so that it would give a clear instruction for contractor to build these ramps at the job site. For this particular project, we had our interns to verify and update quantities using both MicroStation and Excel spreadsheet. Typically, it is to really to quantify construction materials such as removal and replacement of concrete, curb, gutter, sidewalk, and the curb ramps. Now I would like to pass it to Larry. Larry, he worked on this project, and he can elaborate a little bit more what he did out of this quantity verification and update.
Okay, so in the summer, I was in the design A, and I was working with MicroStation verifying curb quantities. Before that, I was doing tutorials within MicroStation, just to get familiar with the tools and get more familiar with MicroStation. And I was working on a project within technically Caltrans just focuses on highways and conventional highways and roadways. So I was working on this project where, as you can see, there's different streets, and each street had curb ramps as ADA ramps from southeast and northeast. What I would do was I would use Google Maps and also the spreadsheet to compare and have a visual of where the street is at and the ADA curb ramp. And then from there, I would use MicroStation to identify the curb and gutter, the asphalt, the concrete, and each was identified into linear feet and square feet. And from there, that's submitted to a 65% package, which is known as a cost estimate. From there, that's submitted, and it's you're verified also how much the quantities is and the total of the ADA ramps.
Okay, yeah, what's shown here, it's a sample 11-page cost estimate that we use here at Caltrans when we develop reports such as the project initiation document or a project report that we prepared during the project inception phase and the project approval and environmental document phase. The sample here is also for actually a CAPM project on an I-5 freeway that is also to preserve and extend service life of the freeway pavement. Additional project scope also include replacement of random deteriorated concrete slabs, median barriers, and to update the freeway overhead signs. The typical 11-page cost estimate consists three major components, including roadway items, structural items, and right-of-way items. Here at Caltrans District's Design Office, we mainly responsible for doing the roadway items estimate. The roadway components, depending on project scope, usually include items like for earthworks, such as for roadway excavation, pavement structure sections for the concrete or asphalt pavement, also drainage like culverts, pipes, and inlets, landscape items such as irrigation and planting, and also traffic items including like striping, signage, and electrical system. And here at Caltrans, as you see here, we have our own unique item codes, which is the very left column that you see these numbers here, corresponding to the different item codes that we use here. We developed these estimates using also our contract data database that we have, which contains historical and the most recent bid prices to find the unit cost. Also, you see further to the right, the column those are unit price that we use. We use the contract database to find comparable projects depending on its size, the type, and the quantity. That's how we typically develop our cost estimate throughout the different cycles of project development. And I will want to pass it on to Luis for him to elaborate on the projects that he worked on for doing the cost estimation.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Luis Orozco. I'm a student assistant in the design department. And can we go back to the previous slide?
Yeah.
So for this, this was an estimate that I had to go over when I was doing the student internship. And basically, I had to go through the codes by each single one, making sure the description and quantity were correct, and then also making sure that the cost estimate was correct at the end. So if we go to the next slide, this was a field that I got to visit. This is on the 101 in Agora Hills. So right here, this was a highway, or not a highway, a bridge that they designed. So it needed repairs, and this was done there. If we go to the next one, this is actually the current project that I'm working on, the Liberty Canyon Wildlife Crossing. So basically what Caltrans is doing is that they're building a bridge for the wildlife to be able to cross through the freeway on top, because a lot of animals are affected by this area. So in order for them to not get ran over or anything, Caltrans is designing this highway so that they can cross safely, and there won't be any issues within the community as well, because a lot of people in the community have been saying that there's been coyotes wandering through their backyard. So the wildlife is being affected by this. So building this bridge is going to help them go through a certain place.
Awesome. Thanks, Luis. And thanks, Gordon. So another unit that some of the interns partook in was landscape architecture. So what's involved in, one of the projects that the intern worked on was what we call a source control project. And source control project is something like this, where if you look here, you'll see that, there's exposed soil over here. And so whenever it rains, all that soil comes down into the drains in the bottom and goes to our stormwater, then ultimately goes into the ocean. So we want to control the source of where all that the pollutants are getting to the ocean. So this project involved putting some slope paving and also some vegetation to keep all that that soil from going into our storm drains and into the ocean. So this is definitely one of the other units that you guys could work in. So some of the typical tasks, like you guys heard that, that some people were doing different things, but some of the main tasks that people worked on was they worked on CAD, which is computer aided design drafting. And in Caltrans, we use MicroStation, but I'm sure you guys also heard of AutoCAD, which is very similar. It's like Coke and Pepsi, the same, but a little bit different. So, and the interns, they worked on quantities, as you just heard. They once we design it, we need to make sure or find out how much we need to, how much it's going to cost. So we need to know how much of everything that we're going to need. And also, we have you guys review plans and reports to make sure that everything is in order. So let's talk about the opportunities that we have in Caltrans. Earlier on, we did say that we do have opportunities in design, in maintenance engineering, and also sustainability and innovation. So in going over design, we already talked about utility engineering, roadway design, and also landscape architecture. We also have office surveys where we have GIS or geographic information systems. So we have that unit where they get all the data, they put it in the database, and makes it much easier to find, kind of like Google Earth or whatever that you guys see. And then also we have traditional surveys where you actually can go out in the field and survey the roadway for projects or for construction. They also have Office of Hydraulics. Hydraulics, they deal with all this the water that's on the roadway, and that's and we want to make sure that it gets off the roadway and like into the storm inlets. So as if you're going to be a part of the Caltrans team, you're going to be helping design these storm drains that usually we don't see because they're all buried underground. But there's definitely a lot of things that's going on behind the scenes. So next, let's talk about the opportunities in maintenance engineering. So with that, I'll yield over to Paul Crispy, who's the office chief in maintenance engineering.
Thanks so much, Anthony, and good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Crispy. I work in the Caltrans Maintenance Division in the Office of Maintenance Engineering. So I'm here to talk to you about some opportunities in maintenance engineering. We do similar work like the Division of Design as far as designing, but we are focused on the preservation of existing assets more. So you may think of freeway maintenance as the orange shirts and trucks that you see on the freeway. Those are our boots on the ground, and those folks are an integral part of the highway maintenance. But in addition to that, we have a lot of engineering work and other technology aspects as well. So I'm going to discuss some of those today, like maintenance engineering and design. We also deal with pavement management. We deal with major damage and disaster response, so-called director's orders. We also do GIS mapping that Anthony mentioned a little bit just a minute ago. And lastly, project management. So next slide, Anthony. So this slide shows some example plans of our maintenance design engineers prepare as a contract plans package for a preservation type of project of existing assets. So for example, we prepare engineering plans, specifications and estimates for culvert lining work, which you could see on the left side there. That's lining an existing culvert, preserving it, trying to give it extra life, maybe 25 or 30 years instead of replacing it, preserving existing assets. And on the right is an example of pavement preservation where we're replacing individual slabs on the freeway. Instead of doing a complete lane replacement, we'll just replace damaged slabs. So as a growth sector intern, you would have the opportunity to work with project engineers who are preparing these plans. And like Anthony said, use MicroStation CAD software, do quantity calculations in Excel, prepare cost estimates based on roadway geometry and cross-section. Next slide. So next is pavement management. As you can imagine, Caltrans has a vast amount of lanes to preserve and maintain in both the counties of LA and Ventura. We use a sophisticated pavement management database called PaveM. And you can see from this slide, this is some of the outputs of that PaveM software in the form of pie charts and other bar charts. And on the upper right-hand corner there, you could see every freeway, every highway in District 7 We know the condition of the pavement, and we know the pavement rating. We also use what's called an automated pavement condition survey, which helps the engineer determine if we need a complete rehabilitation of the roadway or just a pavement preservation project. So there's opportunities for interns to work with our program advisors on pavement using this various software and assist our team in future pavement projects. Next slide. So next is our major damage or unexpected emergency. As mentioned before, our Caltrans field maintenance forces play a vital role in field maintenance, and many times they're the first responder, including CHP at a major damage event like you see on the screen here. It's a major washout of one of our roadways. So, but what happens after the major catastrophic event occurs, such as a mudslide, a fire, or a washout? Well, Caltrans has a group of field maintenance engineers that go out to the damaged sites and give an engineering assessment of the damage. And they work with other professionals in the geotech and hydraulics areas to make recommendations for these kind of repairs. So a growth sector intern may have the opportunity to perform field visits to major damage, take field measurements, calculate roadway quantities and estimates, working with a group of professional civil engineers. Next slide. So in addition to GIS mapping that's in the Division of Design, the Division of Maintenance also has a group of data research analysts that work to create various maps using GIS software like you see on the screen. So there's huge amounts of key data that the team turns into graphical, easy to read GIS maps. Here's an example on the screen of a GIS map prepared by our team for the levels of underserved communities, which is very important for Caltrans to make determinations on projects right now. So the various shades of red there were done with GIS mapping. So you may have the opportunity to work with our GIS team preparing these kind of maps. Next slide. And lastly, we have project management opportunities. So maintenance project managers create new projects, which include defining scope, preparing schedules, and cost of projects. So project managers keep track of budgets and resources, the amount of engineering needed to deliver a project. And it's broken down into individual tasks like you see on the bottom of the screen there. Each task is broken down into a duration and the amount of resources needed to complete each task. So student growth interns may have the opportunity to learn the basic principles of project management, assisting the project managers in maintenance engineering. And that concludes my presentation. Thanks for your time. Back to you, Anthony.
All right, thanks a lot, Paul. So I'm actually getting a little excited about maintenance engineering. So, but moving on, last but not least, we also have some opportunities in our sustainability and innovation division. So this group, what they do is they do a lot of a variety of different things. So one of the things that they do is they plan bikeways and pedestrian improvements. They prepare, our district's active transportation plan, which is like a master plan for the bicycles and the pedestrians, because that's what they call active transportation, because they want people to be more active. So to get out of the car and actually be out there in their bikes and scooters and whatnot. So, and also they're also big proponents of increasing transit use, and also they're to prioritize environmental justice and they're trying to build community partnerships. And the key thing is they're trying to promote equity throughout all the different communities that we go through. One other thing that they're pushing is to ensure adequate electric vehicle charging stations, because we do have mandates. I think it was 2030, where there's not going to be any more gas-powered cars being sold anymore. So unless we get our infrastructure set up for that, that may not be happening. Another thing is that they're pushing is renewable energy. So within a lot of our park and rides or a lot of our facilities, they're trying to promote solar energy. And also kind of like what Luis was saying, he's currently working on a project called Liberty Canyon, where they're where they're trying to make things work with the environment. So if you see here, you see that we're actually the proposal is to construct a bridge with actual trees and vegetation on top of it, not just a roadway, just so animals can safely cross the freeway instead of having to do a jump around between cars to cross the freeway. And last but not least, they're also looking in the future and trying to help with climate change for the future, or reduce climate change. So now let's go over some testimonials from our previous interns, or actually, well, now the current interns as well, but previous growth sector interns, to get to their insight on the benefits of being a growth sector intern. So now I guess I'll open up for Larry or Louise, if you guys could share some of your insights of what your experience was being a growth sector intern.
I'll go first. So benefits as a growth sector intern, you'll develop some hands-on experience. As mentioned before, I was doing MicroStation, also known as similar to AutoCAD. Doing curb red quantities, figuring out the quantities to be submitted for the PSNE as well. Also, I did use a little bit of Civil 3D, setting off stations, which is the beginning and the end of work for those surveyors to stake out in the job site. Besides the hands-on experience, I did experience also reading some manuals, such as the highway design and the project manual. I mean, it's a lot of reading, but reading takes a lot of part of knowing the concept behind it before working on projects. And civil engineers day to day, they're always reading manuals and they're always following rules and laws throughout their projects as they're working on them. On the other hand, I was reviewing project reports and PSNEs were important. I really loved and enjoyed reading project reports. You're learning everything. You're learning something new every day. Project reports tell you the purpose and need of the project. On the other hand, working in a professional environment, although mine was in telework, it was through computer. I still enjoyed working. I mean, I had to ask questions if I was, struggling with something. So always asking questions was useful throughout my growth sector intern. But on the part of that, creating relationships with civil engineers is important, as networking is something you could follow along throughout your future career. So also don't let that stop you if you're working in a telework or as in person, but always ask questions and be open-minded, whether it's a small or big question. Some skills to be developed also throughout growth sector intern was communication as well. And as I worked, I noticed that my professionalism has grown. And I mean, that professionalism is also important within your resume, interviews, anywhere you approach yourself is very important to your future career. An advice I give to growth sector students is I encourage you guys to take as many classes, extracurricular classes such as AutoCAD, surveying, Civil 3D, graphic design. Those are important classes you guys could take, and it will prepare you for a Caltrans if you want to become a growth sector intern. These classes are very important. It'll look good as your resume as well, and the more experience, the better. Also, take this opportunity at Caltrans to grow also within professionalism. Down the line, you'll be able to receive a full-time job once you receive your bachelor's degree, and you can be working as a student assistant as a growth sector after being a growth sector intern. And also, I hope you guys are excited to take this opportunity to work with Caltrans as much as I was excited to work with Caltrans as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, as Larry mentioned, I did get hands-on experience as well. Skills that I developed here were communicating. I've never been really good at communicating, but working here at Caltrans, it's taught me a lot. I've worked with my supervisor. I also worked with another civil engineer on projects, especially the one that I'm working on right now. So being a growth sector intern, it did teach me a lot. Like Larry said, surveying, AutoCAD, MicroStation, those are really important in this field and this career. So just making sure that you're staying on top, always asking questions is the number one thing. When I was here working as an intern, I did read the highway design manual a lot. So is it a lot of reading, but it does teach you a lot more about the projects and about what you need to do in order to get a project done. And when I got to visit the field as well, there were things that were not in the project, such as an electrical line that was not in the project. But when we visited the field, you saw that there was an electrical line. So now you needed to incorporate that electrical line into your project and making sure that it was included as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Luis. So yeah, that's all we got for you guys today. I guess we'll open up for questions because we really actually want to hear from you guys to see what your thoughts are and any concerns or any questions you have regarding Caltrans.
And feel free to ask me any questions since I was a growth sector intern as well.
Yeah, especially, yes, for you guys have any questions for Larry or Luis. So,
well, while students are being a bit shy, I do have a question for specifically for Larry and Luis. If you both can maybe share, I guess, any experience that you had prior to your placement at Caltrans. So for a lot of our students who are on the call, they are in like their first year in the STEM core program. So if you can talk about like where you were with like your math or any classes that you took, just to share, like, obviously you both have learned a lot and I am so proud of both of you because I spoke with, I worked with both of you before the placement and I can really see like the immense amount of growth. So huge kudos to the whole team at Caltrans for the experience and the growth. But I would love if you'd be able to share with the rest of the group just where you were like last year at this time and where you were before the placement.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. So beforehand, before I was in the program with growth sector, I struggled with math, such as I had to take trigonometry and, the following classes, calculus. But what I did was to prepare myself. Well, I did a lot of tutoring as well to help me prepare my classes. What I did was I took a bigger step as well, finding opportunities that would prepare me, such as interns. I looked at various activities or clubs and within my college as well. And SAC Engineering, Bridge to Engineering was one of them. And SAC Bridge to Engineering is affiliated with growth sector. So when I went to SAC Bridge to Engineering, they helped me fill out my resume. I spoke with Mara, she was my advisor, and she helped me with my resume and prepared me with classes as well, such as my calculus classes. And within that, I grabbed more knowledge and more experience as well. And she also gave me advice to take more classes such as AutoCAD, Civil 3D, graphic design. Those classes are useful and they look good for your resume as well. So I encourage you guys once again to take more classes to get more experience. Although they're time consuming, but the more classes, the better. And also tutoring is a very good useful tool as well. For me, I was struggling with math, but I'm already in my last semester with math as well, completed all my calculus classes. So hopefully you guys can do the same. And I encourage you guys to take this opportunity at Caltrans. Caltrans is a big department, a government department. So there's a lot of departments and utility. There's utility, storm drain, so many departments. The doors are open as well.
Yeah, so always ask for help, always ask questions. Don't be shy to ask questions because there might be other people in the class that, might need help, but they're too scared to ask. But if you ask that question, you're always going to help yourself and others. For me, I do struggle a little bit with math, but I am looking for tutors, asking my professor for help, making sure I have a planner with me at all times, making sure I'm on top of all my homework. And also, AutoCAD is really helpful. I've used it a lot of the times. I do also use like Fusion 360s. So that's like designing. So this helps me out a lot. But yeah, just ask questions, stay on top of your homework, and just network with, people in school, because it is going to help you out in the long run.
I have a question, I guess, with sustainability and innovation. I just wasn't quite sure how to ask it. It feels like we went through it a little fast. I don't quite know, as an intern, what would that look like if you were in that section?
Oh, good question. So the thing with the sustainability and innovation division is actually a relatively new division. So and so they're trying to do as much as they can And so all the different things that we went through, unfortunately, yeah, I'm not part of that division, and unfortunately, those people couldn't make it this morning, so I had to present for them. But yeah, they're trying to look at any way that they can to innovate anything that we currently do in Caltrans, and also to see whatever we do now is sustainable, because some of the things that we've been doing in the past, like hasn't necessarily been sustainable. So the case in point, like in here with bikeways. So just building new freeways is not necessarily sustainable because population keeps growing and we can't just keep adding lanes. So one way that they're trying to work it is to help plan bikeways and pedestrian improvements even within state right of way. So we don't. So if more people are walking, taking transit, or even taking bicycles or scooters, then they'll take off the pressure on the need to actually have to add lanes to the freeways. So, and like I said, they're working on a lot of different things. So, like I said, one is to promote active transportation, which is includes bikes and peds, but then and also transit use as well. So, but then and some of them are kind of high level. So like this one, environmental justice. They want to make sure that whatever we put out is equitable. So kind of like that database that Paul Crispy was showing. We want to know where are the underserved communities, because before we never really looked into it. We just built a new freeway and just cut through whole communities and splitting them in half. So this is more of a high level thing, and a lot of things that the sustainability group is looking at are kind of high level, and that they're trying to make global changes within at least Caltrans in our district.
So it's everything that was talked about before, but all in the direction of sustainability, basically, like lots of planning and building and everything, just in that direction instead.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, because it's each one of these things has a lot of detail in it. But so yeah, we didn't have too much time to go into much detail. But yeah, but if you look at it from the sustainability standpoint, that's the bulk of what they're looking into. But they're also trying to see if we could do some innovations as well.
So just to elaborate a little bit more on that, Anthony, the Division of Sustainability and Innovation includes primarily transportation planners. They do work with a lot of our engineers. They coordinate with our engineers throughout the development of the project delivery process, including planning, design, and leading up to construction. On the innovation aspect, they do lead our ideas committee. They're looking for opportunities to streamline processes, develop new policies and guidance in order to make us a more efficient department.
Yeah, thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Hey, no problem. So, and one thing I want to add to what Larry and Luis are talking about as far as asking questions, I want to third that idea or third that thought, because remember, you guys are in school, you guys aren't expected to know. So no matter what question you ask, it's a valid question. Once you graduate, you're kind of expected to know, although in Caltrans, we will definitely work with you guys, especially as interns. But yeah, well, once you get your degree, it kind of says that, but for a lot of people in the back of their mind, they think, hey, you know what, it's even more scary to ask questions then, because you might think that people are expecting you to know. So definitely make sure you guys ask as many questions as possible, especially while you guys in school.
Anthony, kind of going along with that, maybe if you and the team can speak a little bit about like ideal qualities that you're looking for from potential interns, and then also sort of twofold, that transitionary piece. So with the STEM core / growth sector internship placement, students, you all are aware that these are 10-week placements that growth sector sponsors. However, in the case of some of our students, they've been able to transition to ongoing roles with District 7. So if you can talk a little bit about skills and like what you're looking for from students, but then also like what that potential looks like for students in terms of transitioning from a growth sector internship to an ongoing placement.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll start it off. So right now, we're really looking for people with just good attitude and willingness to learn, because we understand you guys are still in school, and we're open for you guys to come in to learn as much as you can, or as much as you want. So as long as you have come in with a good attitude and willingness to learn, hey, that's the minimum that we're looking for.
And any specific major?
All right, I guess I'll go. But yeah, well, ideally, so for Caltrans, primarily we have civil engineers. And so all the different units that we talked about are civil engineering, that you requires a civil engineering degree. But we do have also others, like, you know, we in headquarters, we do have structures. We do have geotechnical engineers. And also, like Derek was saying, for like the sustainability and innovation division, those are planners. So any type of planning degree would definitely help out with that, like urban planning or transportation planning.
Right, to get a job as a transportation engineer civil, you would have to have a bachelor's of science degree from an accredited civil engineering curriculum. But the other minimum qualification is if you have a different technical background and you're able to take and pass the fundamentals of engineering exam, I think formerly known as the engineer in training, and you have that certificate, then you're also eligible to get a transportation engineering civil position. Expanding on our training programs, yeah, you may start off as a STEM or a growth sector intern. The Division of Design also has hired 12 student assistants. We're in the process of hiring our 13th this week. So the growth for the people that are part of the growth sector program would be, yeah, get introduced as an intern. Hopefully we're able to open up additional student assistant programs, or as others leave, we're able to backfill those positions, get even more familiar with Caltrans, hopefully with the Division of Design or any of the other divisions that spoke today, and get familiar with the hiring process, the applications, any of the tests that you need in order to be eligible for that transportation engineering civil position.
Yes, and to add to what Derek was saying, so right now we're here to promote, for you guys to join us as a growth sector intern. But like Larry and Luisa, they came in as a growth sector intern, but then afterwards, after the program ended, we wanted to pick them up permanently as a regular intern. So definitely a lot of opportunities over here in Caltrans.
So I see a question in the chat. What internship opportunities do you have for mechanical engineers? Well, being a mechanical engineer, at least having that background, you have the technical knowledge in order to be very successful with Caltrans. So I'm sure you'd be familiar with being able to understand and reading contract documents, specifically the plans, understanding the specifications, developing estimates for a lot of our projects. So just having some level of technical background is a plus. However, like Anthony said, if you have a willingness to learn, you have a great attitude, we have a robust training program that'll get you up and running and familiar with what we do very quickly.
I think to add on to that, for the mechanical engineer situation, whether you're a mechanical, civil, electrical type of engineer, the fundamentals of basic concepts of being able to use the tools of like AutoCAD, MicroStation, understanding the importance of doing a quantity calculation and an engineering estimate, you will get those fundamental understandings regardless of your specific discipline. But if you were looking to actually get more into the nuts and bolts of actually seeing a mechanical design, yes, we don't really do that, at least not here in District 7. That type of stuff is all sourced out of Sacramento. They do have a specific unit that does things related to mechanical engineering, which is like pump house designs. But it's a very small group because as a whole, we are a transportation agency that does mostly civil engineering type of work. But again, as Derek pointed out, if you have an EIT degree, those fundamentals are still applicable, whether you're a mechanical engineer or a civil engineer or an electrical engineer.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I forgot. Yeah, we do have electrical engineers as well, but not as much mechanicals. But yeah, in the district, we do have electricals as well, yes. And there was one question in the chat that was earlier on in regarding the cost estimates. It says, how accurate are the cost estimates? So I guess I'll start, but if anybody else wants to chime in, feel free to. But yeah, nowadays it's fairly accurate. Although, I can't say always 100% accurate. But now since we're doing everything in CAD, that's as accurate as we can. And what we do is we actually get the areas of the particular element. So let's say if it's a area of pavement, we actually, since it's drawn in, we just get the area times the depth, then we get the volume, and that'll get us our quantities. Or like curb and gutter, those are measured by, or they're paid for by linear foot. So we just measure those out, and then we get that quantity there. So they're fairly accurate, especially now since we're using CAD and our design programs like Civil 3D.
Yeah, I think to answer that question, I probably need a better what the question is asking, because we do cost estimates at various levels of the project in its life cycle. So we do cost estimates at the planning level. We do cost estimates during the environmental phase, and we do cost estimates at the final design phase. With each progression in the project, the cost estimate becomes more accurate because we have more detailed information. So at the planning phase, it's really a rough estimate because we don't know all the nuts and bolts and details, but we are using the information that we know from historical projects to put that estimate together. And as the project moves through the pipeline, let's say in the final design phase, we're using, again, data from historical bid openings that contractors have bid on that particular item, like concrete paving and what they've been bidding for that work to put together our final estimate. But again, remember, the word estimate means it's not 100% accurate, right? Because contractors all have different means and methods of getting the work done. So they're all going to have a different price. Just like when you remodel your kitchen, you'll get 3 contractors. Each one will give you a different price, and you're going to go with the one that gives you the best value. Typically, in the state, we go with the lowest bidder, but that's a different story. But generally, that's the way cost estimates are put together. So at the final design phase, we really get to the nuts and bolts of the quantities, knowing how much material it's going to take to put that project and build it. How much concrete, how much reinforcing steel, how much storm drain pipe of 24-inch concrete pipe, 30-inch diameter corrugated steel pipe, etc. Putting together those quantities and then crunching out a number associated with each quantity is how we get to that final number. And again, our goal is to try to be within plus or minus 10% of the contractor's estimate, typically. But again, we're using historical data based upon previous bids, and every contractor has a little bit different approach. So again, that's why it's an estimate, right? It's not a cost. What would be the word? An actual cost receipt or whatever you want to call it to be, because we're never going to 100% match. We're always going to be a little different, but that's the nature of the way the business works. So hopefully that answers your question.
And by the way, this is Gerald Kam, our Deputy District Director of Design for our District 7, our LA office. So thanks for being here, Gerald.
Yeah, and Gerald mentioned the planning process, the project approval or environmental process, and then moving on to construction. We do have various contingencies to account for incidentals, unforeseen work. And at the planning phase, our percentage for that contingency may vary from 20 to 25%. At project approval phase, it may vary from 10 to 15%. But right before construction, when we're putting out our contract documents for bids, we're normally around 5%. For contingency.
All right, thanks, Derek. So, any other questions?
Great. That was super helpful. A huge thank you to Anthony, Derek, and the whole Caltrans team. I know that our students are extremely appreciative. I've received a lot of questions about opportunities at Caltrans and specifically at District 7 over the last few weeks. So I know that this was super, super helpful. I want to also thank our previous interns for coming back on to share your experiences, because I know that is extremely valuable to not only hear from practitioners, but also hear from students who were just in the exact same position last year at this time. So huge kudos to all of the work that you all have put in. But without further ado, I know that we're right on the 11 o'clock hour. So I know everybody is looking forward to getting on with the rest of their Friday and their weekends. So we'll be sure to let you go. So as always, students, feel free to follow up with me if you have any questions directly. The STEM Core Growth Sector Internship application is currently open. So you can follow up directly with your campus student support specialist or myself to get the link to the application. But we are excited for opportunities like this for all of you. So have a great weekend, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good weekend.